Hello, and welcome to Let My People Eat, a podcast that provides satisfying talk about kosher nutrition. Here we clear through the clutter of nutrition speak, arm you with the clarity and confidence to eat, feel, and be your healthiest every day. I am Jill Scharfman, a board-certified holistic nutritionist living in Los Angeles.
And I'm Dr. Andrea Moskowitz, a neuroscientist and psychiatrist in Los Angeles. I use my training and experience to integrate positive lifestyle changes into my patients' lives.
Hey, Andrea.
Hey, Jill. How's it going?
It's going well. So I understand you've made a change in your eating pattern lifestyle recently.
Right. So I guess at this point now, it took me like 2 months to get there. Mm-hmm. So about 2 months ago, I went totally vegan.
Totally vegan. That is
right.
A big step.
Yep.
Yes, that is. So I've been thinking about that a lot, too, because I have a daughter who's plant-based now. Right. I have another one who's pescatarian. It's a little challenging in the kitchen to coordinate all those different
I bet. And then you eat gluten-free.
I'm gluten-free. I don't have nightshades. I don't eat dairy. So there's a lot of maneuvering now.
Has your husband started to complain? What about a special diet for me?
Yeah, well, luckily he doesn't really eat gluten during the week.
Right.
So we're okay there. But I also started thinking that maybe we should address it because I got an email from someone, and I'm going to read it. Hi, Jill and Andrea. I recently watched a documentary called Game Changers on Netflix.
That's really good.
It's really good. It's interesting. You need to watch it, I think, with a grain of salt, but we'll talk to our guests more about that, too. And also, if every 25-year-old boy that you know is now being plant-based and a vegetarian, you'll understand why when you go ahead and watch the documentary.
Right.
So this person has watched Game Changers on Netflix about how a plant-based diet is actually healthier for you. I found the data about this topic really overwhelming and was hoping you could help me out. Is being vegan actually healthier? And can you even halakhically be a vegetarian? Thanks so much, guys. Bracha. So this is a big topic.
Right.
And so what we've done is we've invited a guest on today to help us address it. Our guest today is Juliana Hever. She is known as the plant-based dietitian. Her focus is on sharing a plant-based diet message of health and happiness. She has authored 5 books, including the brand new Health Span Solution. She was the host of What Would Juliana Do? She has given a TEDx talk, instructed for the eCornell Plant-Based Nutrition Certification Program. She's appeared on Harry, The Dr. Oz Show, The Steve Harvey Show, and now Let My People Eat.
Yes.
Juliana is an RD. She is also the co-host of Science and Saucery podcast and Home Sweat Home on Facebook Watch. Hi, Juliana.
Hi, Juliana.
Hi, ladies.
So I think first what we should do is actually kind of define what is a vegan diet? What's the difference between that and vegetarian? Like, what are the parameters so people understand the differences and are there differences?
Sure. So a vegan diet is basically a definition, of it's like an exclusionary definition. It means what you do not eat. It means technically that I do not eat anything that comes from an animal. So anything with a mom or a face, no eggs, dairy, meat, chicken, poultry, fish. A lot of vegans don't include honey as well. Mm-hmm. So it's basically a definition of I do not eat animal products. Mm-hmm. A vegetarian diet usually, and people kind of play with the definitions a lot, right, but technically it is commonly referred generally to a lacto-ovo-vegetarian diet, which means it is, no meat or fish or all that stuff, no flesh, but does include eggs and dairy. And so what I like to use is a whole food plant-based diet as a definition because that's a more inclusive definition. And that basically means that you eat a diet based on vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, mushrooms, nuts, seeds, herbs, and spices in tasty combinations. Mm-hmm. And it's a more inclusive type of definition. It's more like, it's more visceral. You know what that means. Like, what does that include in a daily diet?
So somebody could be plant-based, but they can, if they want, occasionally have eggs or fish or, yes? I mean, plant.
Not really. I mean, I think that it's evolved to that. A lot of people say that, but technically, like when I defined it in the Plant-Based Nutrition Idiot's Guide originally, it was like, no, this is a diet based on whole plants.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then people kind of do this flexitarian and wiggly room, and all of a sudden fish has become a part of that, but that's really, that's a pescatarian diet. It is really semantics, but from a practical standpoint, I like to use whole food, plant-based, and eating a diet based on vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, mushrooms, nuts, seeds, herbs, and spices to keep it very simple.
Okay, so let's start with, what are the benefits of maintaining this type of lifestyle?
Oh, there's so many benefits. It is the only diet that has ever been shown to actually reverse advanced stage cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes. And, I see this every day. I work with clients around the world, and I see people getting off their medication. The science supports a reduction in medication use for most chronic conditions, hypertension, high cholesterol, high blood sugar. So that is found quite substantially in the literature. It reduces risk for cardiovascular disease to begin with, and reduces risk for type 2 diabetes, many cancers, all sorts of, metabolic diseases. We've seen people have incredible advantages from a autoimmune perspective, a gastrointestinal disease perspective. It is quite literally the most health promoting diet that we know of, according to the science.
So are there any downsides, though?
Downsides. Well, I don't see any, except during the transition process when people kind of have to deal with society. And it's gotten so much better. I've been at this for over 15 years now, and it has changed dramatically, where people can now say vegan or plant-based and people know what that means, and before it was a struggle every day to kind of, figure out, what I was going to eat or where I was going to find food. And it's not like that anymore. It's very, very, very much changed in light of all of the evidence that's come out and a lot of the communications that's come out via, movies and social media. So it's a different time, and it's the only I would say difficulty would be that transition period. And like with anything, if you're transitioning anything in your life, something significant like food and what you're eating every day, you just have to kind of start and learn and then immerse yourself in it. And then it becomes part of everyday life. And then there really are no barriers, I would say, now, especially.
So what if somebody says, well, you need enough protein, for your body to build muscle and hair growth, and there are other vitamins that are nutrients that you can only get, let's say, from a animal-based diet. Like, how do you address those concerns?
So I dive deep into all of this stuff in all of our books and our website. We have so much information on this, but I'll say this generally speaking, is that for 13, 14 years, I was going around defending the nutrient adequacy of eating this way. And what's so interesting is when I started working together with Ray Cronise about 3.5 years ago, and I started diving, he kind of introduced me to this whole world of the health span and longevity research. Right. And what was so fascinating is that the only way we've ever extended health span and longevity in every model organism tested, from yeast to primates, from a nutritional standpoint, is with dietary restriction without malnutrition. Specifically, possibly the essential amino acid restriction, which is what we collectively call mistakenly as protein. So what was so fascinating about this, and where this big, this beautiful connection comes between the health span longevity research and a plant-based diet, is perhaps the reason it is so efficacious and so health promoting to eat this way is because of what it naturally restricts. Now, that said, we talk about notable nutrients, and we talk about where you do get certain nutrients. Like, there are some things that we need to be aware of, like vitamin B12, vitamin K2, things that we could talk about as much as you'd like. But the point is that no matter what you're eating, if you're eating a standard American diet, if you're eating a pescatarian diet, no matter what you're eating, everyone needs to be mindful of nutrition and their diet, and has to think about it. And it's not specific to a plant-based diet.
Right. Okay. So do you recommend supplementation for those people who come to see you for like iron, B12, like those types of things? K2. Is that something you recommend?
Yes, the 5 nutrients of concern, or I call them the notable nutrients, specifically on a whole food plant-based diet, are vitamins B12, vitamin D. Sometimes that's kind of a whole world has to kind of think about their vitamin D, K2, iron, and iodine. And then also perhaps in terms of a macronutrient, it would be the long chain omega-3 fatty acids, EPA and DHA. Mm-hmm. And all of these kind of need to be considered in this diet. And we have our clients on a multi that covers those, not great dose, massive doses, but kind of like a gentle multivitamin that covers all those things. And then it's just not an issue after that.
Mm-hmm. So you talked about transition being the hardest time. So Andrea just did the transition.
Yes.
My kids have almost done it. I have not, but have been thinking about it. So I know first of all, there's a problem. You have people who are like these junk food vegetarians. So they're not, they're eating French fries because that is plant-based, but they're not eating, vegetables. So if you were going to tell somebody to transition to a plant-based lifestyle, what would your first piece of advice be?
Yes. I mean, can I address the junk food thing real quick?
Yes, of course.
Because this is huge. And honestly, we didn't really expect what's happened right now. Not only junk food vegetarian, that was always easy. It was very easy to say, I'm vegetarian. And then, you end up becoming a cheesetarian. And I have a lot of recovering junk food vegetarians that come to me that want, they have all the health issues because of cheese. I mean, cheese is one of the worst things that we could put in our body from a health perspective.
But it's so yummy.
Of course it is. Yeah. And it's actually got this like a little addictive property going on because
these
morphines. It's like a big old dopamine hit, but not healthy at all. And I've seen a lot of crazy things happen when people just remove just dairy, especially cheese. Right. But, okay. So that was always possible with the vegetarian diet, but whoa, what has happened in the vegan world since I started this is incredible. In the last, 10 years, really, we went from having, our junk food we'd have to make a delicious cake or whatever, like from scratch, to all of a sudden now there are there's so many different vegan ice creams, vegan burgers, vegan candies and cookies. I mean, there's like anything you could eat, I could eat vegan. And alas, here I am getting clients for the first time in my 15 years as a dietitian coming to me with the same health issues as the meat eaters were prior to this. So I'm concerned as a vegan, as a dietitian, like I want people to eat whole foods, and those foods need to remain considered as treats. It's okay to have a vegan burger once in a while, and it's great that they're out there, but they should not become staples and not be considered health foods still.
Right. Yes, absolutely. So here, I brought up Game Changers, the documentary on Netflix that came out like a year or two ago. Yeah. I was just wondering, from as being the plant-based dietitian, I'm sure you were happy there was a lot of good information. Were there any concerns though, or you would say, yes, this is watch this?
So we just interviewed the dietitian that was corroborating all of the science, and he's the chief science officer for that film. We just had him on our podcast this week. We just released it yesterday, actually.
And that was Science and Sorcery, right?
Science and Sorcery. And we interviewed David. Dave.
I was just going to say, if anybody wants to hear it, you guys are on iTunes, and I'll put a link also to your website on the podcast. So yeah,
thank you. Yes. So we interviewed David Goldman, and we've also interviewed James Wilkes, who was the producer and the guy that that is featured throughout the film. So yes, no, it was a great film. I kind of was involved at the beginning, so it's been a long process, and there's a lot of good information and there's a lot of good inspiration. And I think if you want to look at it, I highly recommend it because A, it's like, wow, I could do this, and B, I could eat plants and do great. And I think that I've seen this now in thousands of people over the years. So I think it's a great film. There's nothing that's, overly exaggerated at all. I mean, it's all based, there's all science. If you go to their website, they have all of these links to the research behind it. And then David Goldman is a really, really good dietitian. He's just a good, scientist. And I highly recommend the film for sure.
Yeah. I just wanted to add, that was my inspiration for going vegan. Was watching it because I work out a lot. I run I spin, I do weights, I work out a lot. And I was sort of always kind of in this sort of mini inflammation state where I felt like I was feeling too achy. I mean, I expect to feel a little achy and taking a little bit too long to recover. So that was why I switched over, because I had a pretty healthy diet. And it's really made a very big change.
For you, it was an experiment. You approached it as an experiment.
I exposed it as an experiment, like, let me see if this helps.
Right.
Because I don't like feeling kind of this sort of overall achy for a lot of the time. And I did it. It's really helped a lot. I mean, Jeff, I have a big weight workout. Yes, the next day, my arms or whatever part of my body I worked out, are a little bit achy, but not like it was.
Right. So
I feel much better.
So
I love it. And I love to say that results are typical, and we see this, and there's a lot of explanations for this, but along with all of those advantages that have been corroborated in the science I talked about before, there's also these kind of things where people come to me and, they got rid of their lifelong asthma or eczema or aches and pains, or, their workouts have become stronger. Their recovery is quicker and easier. This is just, it's so mind blowing because I see this all the time.
Right. And I also have more fun cooking now.
Yes.
I've gotten like much more loose in the kitchen, like just trying different combinations of things. And I'm really having like a lot more fun cooking.
Oh, that's good.
I love that because you have to look beyond what we're used to. We grew up with a hunk of meat in the middle of the plate, a little bit of vegetable, a little bit of starch on the side. And we just saw the plate in a certain way. I mean, anyone that grew up in the United States on a standard American diet, that's what we know. And that's what we've learned. And so it's basically it forces you out of your comfort zone, especially at the beginning, and forces you to think outside of that plate. And I think that does indeed inspire creativity, and it's quite exciting.
Yeah.
Right. You call it in your book, the broken plate. That's where we've started, and you're trying to fix that. So you talk, the book is your new cookbook or new book is called Health Span. So when what does that term mean when you say health span? What are you getting at?
Yeah, so it's called the Health Span Solution. Mm-hmm. And basically, we look at lifespan, how long do we live? But with health span, it's how long do we live well? How do we add life to our years? And, anyone that thinks about living long, doesn't really want to live like 20 more years, in a home where you're disabled and sick and not feeling good. We want to live long and be able to play with our grandchildren and our great grandchildren and have energy and vitality and all of that. And, we're not, like we say, I think our first line in the book is, you're not going to live forever eating carrots. We acknowledge that. And there are some great pharmacological interventions that are taking place now in terms of all of this, and gene therapies. We've talked about that in our show a lot too, and interviewed some experts in that field. But, from a perspective of what we know and what we can do on a day-to-day basis, we are what we eat, and food is crucial. In fact, diet is literally, scientifically, the number one cause of early death and disability in the world. And we, more so than smoking, and we eat 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day. So we are constantly flooding our system with compounds from outside. And it is who we become in terms of health, in terms of reducing risk for chronic disease, improving immune function, which is really important right now and always. But it is really quite extraordinary what we can do with food, and what I've seen in thousands of clients I've worked with over the years, and what we're seeing in the science. So Health Span is basically about, the subtitle is how and what to eat to add life to your years.
Right. And I think, if people can also consider that their body is constantly replenishing itself. We're constantly remaking our organs, remaking most of our tissues, etc. So the raw materials that you take in are really important. It's not like you look in the mirror and you just see your same old face every day, but it's not really the same old thing because it's constantly replenishing itself. People should ask themselves, it's like, okay, like I have my car. Should I put in a grade of gas that's like not recommended for my car?
Right. That's a general question, even without being plant-based. Right. So I know that Andrea and I are going to get a lot of questions because in our community, there is a saying, Ein simcha el bebasar v'yayin. There's a Talmudic maxim that says wine and meat are essential to a joyous holiday meal. So, first of all, I want to say there is an excellent video called The Lecture Every Jew Should See. It's by Asa Kesar. It's in Hebrew with English subtitles, and I will put a link on the website post so you can go listen to it.
Good.
He goes through and explains that basically not only as Jews are we obligated to eat plant-based and not to eat meat, but halakhically it clearly violates Jewish law.
Oh, good.
Yes, he goes into it very, very specifically. The short answer is the Torah prohibits causing animals to suffer, and the modern methods that we use for preparing animals for the dinner plate clearly violates the law. And also, he clarifies and he brings a lot of texts. He goes very deep. So, and he's very clear about this. It's about an hour and a half, so it does take time. Kesar clarifies that when talks about eating meat for joyous occasions, it is specifically from the temple sacrifices and is therefore no longer relevant. We can still have wine. Wine brings us joy, and it's
right.
Buying new clothes for the holiday brings us joy.
Right.
That we're allowed to do. But he said there is little support, to go ahead and be eating meat the way that we do. And that's a form of gluttony, and it's
right.
the Yetzer Hara, and we have to overcome it. So I know we might get some flack on this, like, why are we advocating a plant-based diet? But, if you really get deep, and did I say that Israel reportedly has the highest number of vegans per capita in the world?
They have a huge number of vegan restaurants.
Huge number of vegans and a lot of rabbis who are
right.
supporting the vegan lifestyle. So it's something definitely, that's what's making me transition. Oh, so Juliana, let's back up. So if I today say I'm going to really commit and do this, what would be my first steps? What would be your 3 top tips for me to go ahead and start making these changes?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, first, I would say have fun with this. I would say the first step is to stay really positive and enjoy the process, because this is the best time ever to explore plant-based options. I mean, really, in the last decade, it has exploded and there are options everywhere and there are recipes everywhere. And so just start thinking about it like you're learning and you're going to explore and you're going to, look for new things that you may never have tried. Like, for instance, caviar lentils or, a different kind of rice. I think there's, 10,000, and then I've read 40,000 cultivated edible rices out there. So maybe you haven't tried black rice or red rice or purple rice. Or just trying something that you haven't tried in terms of an ingredient, maybe a fruit that you see at the store that you've never explored, or a daikon radish, just something that's different. Just start thinking about it as kind of an adventure. And then if you really think about it, we are creatures of habit. We rotate through, most people eat the same breakfast every day, 1 or 2 different lunches that we may switch between, maybe 3 or 4, 5 or 6 dinners a week, right? Really, we are creatures of a habit. We eat the same things. If you think about it like that, you really only need about 8 to 10 recipes that you love. So the mission is find a recipe that you love, put a little heart on it. If you don't love it, toss it out or modify it or find something else. All you need to do is find your little repertoire of delicious meals that you look forward to, that are plant-based, that are made out of vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, mushrooms, nuts, seeds, herbs, and spices, and add that to your collection. And that's it. Just start simple.
Great. I love it.
I just want to add a little plug here, because I looked through your new book that's coming out, and is it out yet, or it's coming out?
Oh, yeah. It came out December of 2019.
Oh, okay, great, because I can order it. Because it has looked like a great number of recipes for stews and things that are really almost like, it's like a meal in a whole pot.
Right.
Yes. So what
they look really good. This looks so good.
Thank you. Yeah, we've kind of broken all the cookbook rules. It's really like the first 4 chapters are a crazy deep dive in the science. So
which is great.
It is not,
it's a very good
there's no like pantry staples or like, it's very different. And the other thing we did that's really disruptive is we don't have breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack, dessert. We have soups, salads, sides, and sweets. And we're getting rid of any time-stamped meals, because it doesn't matter if you want to have soup for breakfast or if you want to have, it just doesn't matter. You could eat any of these recipes. They all work for, promoting health. They all work for weight loss. They all work for, if you want to eat four different meals, for a little bit of 4 different recipes, or you just want to have one big recipe. Like we didn't put nutrition in there, and we didn't even put, we didn't want to put serving sizes because it doesn't matter how much you eat.
Right.
All of them are perfectly good for all of the above.
Yeah. That's great. Well, Juliana, thank you. I want to
Thank
tell
you.
our audience that you can follow Juliana on Facebook at The Plant-Based Dietitian. She's also on Twitter at Plant Dietitian. Her Instagram is at Juliana Hever, and I'll have all this on the website. Her website is plantbaseddietitian.com and healthspansolution.com. So you can check all that out. You can look at ordering the book. You can look at her podcast, Science and Saucery. And also Juliana and Ray, her partner, run plant-based Thai retreats. So I was looking at it. It looks amazing.
Join us.
Yeah, right. You can follow me on Instagram at Jill Scharfman. I also want to thank our engineer, Mike Casantini at the Network Studios. So thank you, Juliana, so much.
Thank you.
It was very inspiring.
Thank you both so much for having me.
It's our pleasure.
All right. Take care.
Thanks.
Take care.
And that is it for this episode of Let My People Eat. Please visit our website at letmypeopleeat.com and leave us a comment. Get in touch at our email at podcast@letmypeopleeat.com or call us at 317-659-0004. Post on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook with the hashtag #LetMyPeopleEatPodcast. If you like this show, please make sure to leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. Tell your friends and family, and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts.
And please remember that although we are certified professionals, this is not a medical advice podcast. No content, posts, or comments should be interpreted as professional guidance. Always speak to your own health practitioner about making the right life changes for you.
Until next time, I am Jill Scharfman.
And I am Andrea Moskowitz.
Thanks for joining us.
And go in good health.